The next component we need to add to the kit, to the scene, is the primary cell object subcontroller. To understand what this component does, let's take a look at our world again. Remember in the previous video I said that each cell starts in a deactivated state, which means that the object associated with that cell is also deactivated. Now, when an object, or when a cell becomes activated, which we'll just indicate by the cell turning white, the object needs to be activated by the world, but the world does not have that object. In order to get that object, the world sends a request to the primary cell object subcontroller. And that request simply contains a list of all the cells that were activated, and the primary cell object subcontroller is then responsible for attaching those objects to the cells. Now you can create your own custom subcontrollers, and if you do, one thing to note is that you need to make sure that those objects are in a deactivated state when you attach them, because once the attachment process is complete, the world will actually go through and activate all those objects. Now, on the other hand, these cells can of course become deactivated again, and when that occurs, the objects used by those cells is no longer needed by the world. So the world deactivates those cells and sends them to the primary cell object subcontroller for processing. It really doesn't care what the primary cell object subcontroller does with those objects. So it can destroy those objects, it can store those objects, it can modify those objects in some way, which I don't know why you do that, but you could. And you can also modify the objects before you attach them to the world. So that's just indicating that this path, the world's sending activated cells, and this path it's sending deactivated cells. So there are two versions of the subcontroller available, a pooling and a non-pooling version. To add one of those, we'll go to Game Object Create Empty. I'm just going to name it Primary Subcontroller for short. You can find the component under Component, Dynamic Loading Kit, Subcontrollers, and I'm going to use the non-pooling version. So the non-pooling version, when the object is sent to the primary subcontroller, when it's no longer being used by the world, this non-pooling version will simply destroy that object. Now, in order to ensure that multiple objects aren't destroyed in the same frame, we can add a post-destroy yield time. So 0.3 is simply indicating that once an object is destroyed, we should wait 0.3 seconds before performing another operation. I'm not going to go into more detail what cell actions are. I'll go over them in another video. You can also hover over the label name to see more information about them, or look at the full guide, which is available in the terrain slicing /instructions folder. All you need to know is that if you want to use cell actions, you have to enable them on your subcontroller. The cell object loader is a component that we'll be adding in the next scene, so for now I'm going to avoid that. One last thing we need to make sure of is that now that we've added our subcontroller, you'll hopefully remember that we had a field for that subcontroller on our world, so we need to go ahead and add that now. And after doing that, our world is configured. Our subcontroller is not completely configured, but it's configured enough to end this video. Thanks for watching.